A surprise diplomatic move as Kazakhstan formally joins the Abraham Accords, marking a major shift in Middle Eastern and Central Asian alliances. Let's head to Sydney. We're joined by Tim Harcourt from UTS, host of the Airport Economist channel, and joins us here. Professor Harcourt, good to see you, of course. What's the significance of Kazakhstan joining the Abraham Accords as a Muslim majority nation?
Well, we're now starting to see a number of moderate Muslim majority nations join the Abraham Accords. Kazakhstan, I spent a fair bit of time there. Aaron, it's an unusual place, as they say. We look East Asian, we speak Russian, but we're Muslim majority. And, they've got bilateral diplomatic ties with Israel, and now they've gone a step closer with actually joining the Abraham Accords with a lot of the moderate nations like Morocco and so on, who want to rebuild the Middle East and Central Asia.
Just having a look at some of the images we have here from the Kazakhstan's leaders' visit to the White House, and there you are as well. Just explain this image for us, Tim.
Well, they have a Nobel conference each year in Kazakhstan, the Astana Economic Forum, and most of the speakers are Kazakhs, but I think 2 out of the 4 foreign speakers were me and Tony Blair, the former British Prime Minister, and we had a nice chat actually because he grew up in Adelaide, part of the time where I'm from, and had a lot of affection for Australia. And the thing about these conferences, if you're one of only 4 foreign speakers, you do get to meet people like Tony Blair, which was pretty cool. The Nobel Prize winner Nash was the other one, so it was a pretty good time in Astana.
Yeah, well, Tony Blair obviously has a lead role in Donald Trump's plan for rebuilding Gaza as well. Do you see Kazakhstan signing up to the Abraham Accord, I guess a signal of a broader trend, a new wave of nations trying to normalise ties now with Israel post this 2-year war?
I think that's right. I mean, I think the Kazakh, president said he wants dialogue. He wants things through mutual respect, not conflict. They've had a visit themselves to Kazakhstan from the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu in 2016. There's talk that President Trump will visit Kazakhstan himself. So they clearly want a normalisation of relations with Israel, and they obviously are interested in the United States initiative, not only in terms of peace but also prosperity right through the Silk Roads, right through the corridor as an alternative to Russia and the One Belt, One Road of Xi Jinping.
For Kazakhstan, though, does this move complicate its diplomatic ties with China, Russia and Iran? You mentioned the One Belt, One Road China initiative, but what about Russia and Iran, given its proximity?
Yeah, well, it's no fan of Iran, and of course it's declared its independence from the Soviet Union very, very, very quickly after the demise of Gorbachev, and they've always wanted to show their independence. They've got the critical mineral wealth and other resources that the world wants, so they've got quite a good bargaining position to reassert themselves, and they really want to be able to develop their critical minerals and get their goods and services to market without having to go through Russia or China or be caught up in the Middle East quagmire. So for them, this Abraham Accords is a good sign for their future plans.
What strategic or economic benefits do you see Kazakhstan standing to gain from aligning with the Accords? What do they get out of this?
Well, I think they get a lot of US investment in their critical minerals. There's a lot of Australian and Canadian investment in Kazakhstan too, traditionally in oil and gas and now critical minerals. So I think they're looking for the foreign investment. They're looking to be seen as a lead nation in their own right. The stands want to be very independent of Russia and China and Iran and strike out on their own with the West and with Israel and the other Middle Eastern nations. And I think they've already taken these steps in terms of critical minerals and in terms of prosperity and economic ties. And I think the Abraham Accords gives them an opportunity to do the same in terms of national security.
All right, now the New York mayoral race has become a showdown between progressives young and old. Tim, the mayoral race in New York, obviously we've been watching it, a battle of generations on the left. What do you think is driving this shift? And is it safe to say that the West Coast, the East Coast now are firmly Democratic and even more than that, now potentially socialist?
Yes, well, it's certainly democratic socialist. I think there's two things going on. One is obviously, the struggles of the younger generation, the Gen Zs and the millennials, to get into the housing market, to be able to get secure jobs. So I think that's been clearly an election issue that both moderate Democrats and Republicans have perhaps not come to grips with. But unfortunately, it's been mixed up with the, globalised intifada and all the other slogans the new mayor has been putting about. So in some ways, you would say that some of his economic policies are quite traditional left, and looking at the younger generations have been really struggling in housing and the labour market. But the foreign policy is something different, and I don't know to what extent that's going to have much electoral success beyond certain circles, and a real worry for New York's large Jewish community, obviously.
Well, a third of New York's Jewish community voted for him. Do you think they'll come to regret it?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, we've already seen attacks on synagogues in Brooklyn, and the mayor had to come out and condemn them pretty quickly. And there's been phone calls with Josh Shapiro, the Pennsylvania governor, a leading Democratic politician who was possibly going to be the vice president candidate. So there are moves there, and I think that's a line they've got to tread really carefully. And a number of rabbis who don't get involved in politics have actually from their positions been quite concerned about his election.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch. Obviously, it sets up a pretty strong, weird relationship with Donald Trump. It essentially gives the Republicans someone to point to. But the story about what happened last week has been that Donald Trump and the Republicans appear to be in trouble with the public. Is this because of the rising jobless rate? Is this because of tariffs, uncertainty, perhaps a focus overseas rather than domestic issues, a government shutdown? Have the Democrats been able to successfully blame the Republicans for that? What do you think the cause is of the Trump slump?
Well, it's interesting to see. I mean, in some ways, foreign policy success gives you plaudits on the world stage, but as Tip O'Neill used to say, all politics is local. And so, unless the Republicans and the Trump administration deliver on their economic message, then, that will continue. And at the same time, I think there was a view from, I guess, younger, more left Democrats was that the moderate economics of the moderate Democrats wasn't working for them either. Having said that, I mean, President Trump seemed to think that the New York mayor would be quite a handy candidate to attack, when he's looking at the Midwest and the South and the rural parts of the United States for the Republican Party. So that's a lot to play out with. At the end of the day, the New York mayor looks after services, picking up the garbage, getting the schools right. They're not part of foreign policy formally, at least.
Yes, interesting. I mean, he comes into it with a pretty big agenda, though. He says that he's going to make rents cheaper. He wants to tax more of the rich. We've heard it all before. We've seen a number of wealthy leave New York, and it's been a pretty tough time for Manhattan post the lockdowns in COVID because so many companies have left and haven't necessarily returned. So do you see New York as now changing, or is it just too big to change?
I think New York capital's not going to go anywhere. Although individuals may change their arrangements. Of course, I mean, Aaron, a lot of people a lot of very wealthy people are now on the left. I mean, if you look at the Democratic Party establishment and the donors, Alex Soros was photographed with the mayor. There's a lot of left-wing socialist billionaires out there. So in some ways, they'll probably be quite close to this mayor. So I don't think the rich vote one way necessarily.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it there for now. Professor Tim Harcourt, appreciate your insights as always here on Ticker. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Aaron.